Thank you to the people who are supporting me on Ko-fi. You guys are keeping me alive.
What is this?
Huffed Moon as he was being transported into parts and services by a very annoyed Brian. Brian was a day guard and quite busy, one at that, so he couldn't understand why he was always the one to deal with the daycare attendant. Moon had awoken in a small cage, covered by a thick blanket, his fingers poking past the metal poles, keeping him contained. "Don't do that," muttered Brian.
Oh, and why should I? You haven't even told me what this is about. It wasn't nap time yet. Why did you turn me on?
The machine's pleas were ignored. From behind his prison, Moon could hear the noise of cheering children and sound effects from various machines and entertainment devices of the Pizzaplex. It sure was frustrating knowing that the kids in the daycare were the only ones who were meant to have nap time. He was certain all of these filthy brats needed time out once in a while. But no, they were too old. No, they were teens. Teens don't need nap time. Ugh, these dumb brats would slow down, maybe they could listen better. Well, whatever. Not like he had any authority here. The machine grumbled. He knew he should enjoy this. After all, he so rarely left the daycare, especially during the day. Grunting, he curled up into a ball, his back kicking the cage bars.
Brian, am I being scrapped?
The man smiled and didn't respond. Moon rolled his eyes. Even though he couldn't see the day guard's face, he knew very well that Brian would never tell him the answer to that. Though in reality, Brian genuinely didn't know what this was about. He was just told to get Moon to parts and services. That's what he was doing. Brian pushed his package onto a ramp leading into the maintenance tunnels. Moon immediately recognizing the stillness and darkness around him. It was comforting. And he calmed down almost immediately. He even felt comfortable enough to stretch. Brian was glad that he had to turn in Moon for this assignment. Sun would have been a terrible travel buddy, mostly because of his oppressive protectiveness over the children in the daycare. He would have never left on his own accord, unless there was a genuinely good reason. Soon Brian pushed the cage through the back door of parts and services, only for him to groan loudly. No way, are you serious?
What? What's happening?
The blanket was lifted, and the cage opened. And as Moon crawled out of it, he took note of the severely darkened parts and services room. And his eyes soon focused on the protective dome. A glass cylinder with mechanical arms that was used to automate maintenance on machines. Inside of it was...
Who's that?
asked the robot curiously, coming as close as he could to the glass without the lights inside of it affecting his personality. Meanwhile, Brian was talking heatedly with Kevin, the on-duty engineer of the Pizzaplex. Brian was complaining about something, though Moon didn't listen. Instead, he only had eyes for what was lying on the operation table inside the dome. It was an animatronic. The robot walked around the dome to get a full picture of the machine. He could immediately tell the robot was a she, a beautiful white face with red lipstick, a blue star shape around her right eye, and an orange moon around her left eye. Her cheeks had two big red circles, like a clown. There were seams around her face too, that would allow for rudimentary mouth movements. She wore similar blue baggy pants with a star pattern like he did. The rest of her body was covered by black synthetic fabric, given form by the humanoid female endoskeleton beneath. Her arms had openings at the wrists to allow for free hand movement. Her hands had 4 digits each, with long, white fingers. At the end of each tip, a different color. On closer inspection, Moon quickly realized that those were colored wax tips, effectively making her fingers function like crayons. And on her head was a sleeping cap proudly sitting, just like his. Moon couldn't tear his eyes off her. She looked absolutely mesmerizing. Meanwhile, Kevin explained the situation to Brian. This was the new security puppet, specifically designed to be able to explore and protect the entire Pizzaplex at night. During the day, she would crawl through the vents and access any cameras, and at night, roam free together with Moon as a sort of animatronic tag team. Brian looked at her. I mean, that sounds great and all, but are we slowly being replaced? Kevin shrugged. You know, I think it's more, she's a tool for the gods to use. I don't think anybody will be fired. And then Brian laughed. Fazbear Entertainment, as of recently, started introducing new uniforms for all human employees. Purple uniforms for the day shift, white ones for the evening and night shift. Even new staff bot models, etc. This was a marketing stunt, and quite good one at that. Even Brian loved his new purple uniform. It was super comfy, as it was at least 2 sizes too big for him. Well, Brian approached the predictive dome. As long as no one gets fired, I don't give a damn. People were so going to get fired over this, he thought. But what could he do? So why did I bring the goblin here? Moon's head turned to face Brian.
What did you just call me?
Oh, yes, Kevin interjected. We're going to introduce her to Mona, Moon's girlfriend. The robot shrieked. What's wrong? Asked Kevin.
I don't have a girlfriend.
Well, now you do. Immediately, the robot retreated deeper into parts and services.
No girls allowed!
Hiding beneath a cardboard box, the robot whimpered. To Moon, this sounded like a punishment. Like he wasn't doing his job right and they needed to add more of him just because he was such a failure. Not understanding that Fazbear just wanted to make more money by increasing the amount of marketable characters. Especially since the security puppets in the old locations were always so well liked, despite the creep factor. We should just turn her on then, huh? Asked Kevin with a smirk, and Brian shrugged. Why are you so eager? Well, the servers don't override the robot's programming until she's turned on. You know, making them react appropriately to the new arrival and such. This is to avoid them asking for her should she not be ready in time, so once we hit the switch... Brian chuckled. He's gonna be a new robot. Precisely. Brian shrugged. Well, go ahead and do it. Kevin turned to the maintenance panel of parts and services, initiating the boot-up sequence. Huh. Brian was impressed. As 2 white lights appeared inside of the animatronic's empty eye sockets. As it turns out, Muna's eyes were screens like those old Furbies. Actually kinda genius. You meanwhile blinked, raising your arms to look at your hands. As the boot-up sequence finished behind your eyes. Establishing Fastnet connection. Unlocking artificial memory bank, said Kevin out loud as he was typing commands. Your eyes flashed brightly as you were giving personality. Hey, Brian. Yeah? The day guard stepped behind Kevin. What friendship value should we give our 2 lovebirds? Recommended is 20. according to the manual. Brian chuckled. Friendship values were hidden numbers for the animatronics. Mostly the number was associated with various Fazbear customer counts, but there were values for other animatronics too. This made it so that the robots could have a little drama and randomized friendship events, and actually bond with customers. For example, Freddy's friendship value with Chica was around 15, making them the best of friends, while Monty's friendship level with Freddy was 7, which made them rivals. A friendship level of 15 also would be the highest possible for customers. This was due to how the machines interpreted friendship, and Fazbear just didn't want the robots to get romantic with normal customers, especially children. The media explosion that would cause, well, not even Fazbear could survive that. However, this was the first real relationship animatronics had with each other, so really the sky was the limit here. An experiment of sorts. What about 69? Chuckled Brian, and Kevin burst into laughter. What? It's a good number. It's a hilarious number, actually. Imagine somebody actually gets behind it. They'd be laughing their ass off too. With his middle finger, Kevin deleted the initial number of 10, changing it to 69, for both you and Moon. Upload complete, chuckled Kevin. The locks around your body were now released, as Kevin pressed another button. Immediately jumped up on the table, taking the new environment in. Can she talk? Normally these things don't shut up, even if you tell them to, asked Brian. Oh. Huh. I guess that's what that piece was for. I was wondering, no voice box? He said it so quietly Brian almost didn't catch it. You idiot. Let's just say it broke on delivery. You stepped forward, pressing your hands against the protective dome. They were employees, that's how much you could tell. So they're for family. Yes. Don't harm them. Sure. The dome unsealed, and you took your first step into the outside world. Elegantly you bowed before the two men as a greeting. I like this one, said Brian, before pulling out his tablet. Muna, was it? Access employee tech stab. Let's have a little chat. You tilted your head. She doesn't have access to that yet. I still have to set it up, said Kevin. Well, either way. What else do you need? This is a mere test drive. We let her and Moon interact a little, then we shut her off again for the full unveiling in a couple of days. Got it. Kev, let's have a milkshake. I need a break. Moon remained under the cardboard box for a while you explored your new environment. Unaware Moon was under the box. Though as time passed, and your metallic footsteps occasionally became louder and then quieter as you walked past him, he became curious. With shaking hands, he lifted his box a little, your sensors immediately picking up on movement behind you. Your head shot around, only just barely catching glimpses of the box moving. Like a cat on the prowl, you got on all fours, crawling over to the box, quietly, only occasionally making a clicking noise as your endoskeleton moved. Inspecting it. That was your box. Your face, all by upside down, was printed on its side. You had arrived inside of it, at the Pizzaplex. That made it precious to you. You dragged a finger across the top of it, leaving behind a long, dark blue streak from your crayon fingertips. This gave the term finger painting a completely new meaning. Well, not really, but you like to imagine that. Hearing your soft touches on top of the box made Moon nervous.
Go away.
Hushed Moon. For a split second, you retreated your hand, more of surprise as anything. Leaning down, you raised the box a little with your fingers. The light of your eyes shined brightly like a flashlight into the darkness. Moon made an uncomfortable noise as you shined it into his eyes.
Hey!
He complained. Your mouth perked up into a hollow smile as you slipped into the box with him. Inside, it was now quite cramped. Luckily, due to both of your natures as agile animatronics, there was just enough breathing room. Your faces pressed against each other, your eyes turning into hearts as you looked at him. Moon looked away, awkwardly, shyly even.
"You're a little close,"
he muttered. With a quiet clank, your head slumped down onto his chest. His right eye twitched.
"Why aren't you?" "Oh yeah, can't talk yet. Forgot."
Lifting your head, you returned your gaze back to his eyes. Your inside fans began to blow loudly, like an old computer trying to launch a next-gen game. Moon gulped audibly. You were being quite handsy now. And normally, the animatronic didn't like that. Kids were filthy. Grown-ups were filthy. Though your hands were pristine, factory new. The only dirt, a slight layer of dust from your searching and crawling from earlier. That was just enough grime for him not to have a complete conniption. Though he wished you disinfected them before being so hands-on with your approach of whatever this was. Your thumbs scratched across his lips, leaving a yellow wax line just above his chin. He felt your limbs wrap around him. Your arms and legs were like snakes or tentacles. If Moon could blush, he would. This was so lewd, so romantic, beautiful. And a part of him was glad he got to experience this and no other animatronic. This was just for him. A little proud of himself, the endoskeleton behind Moon's mask smirked. Its eyes shifted to your arms. Like pythons, they were knotted around his body. There were a few mechanical clicks and doots coming from you, probably because your internals were calculating how to twist next. Maybe that's why your endoskeleton didn't have a lot of shell pieces outside of your hands and face. The soft silk polyester fabric of your body felt almost slimy to the animatronic. The two of you remained like this for a while, an almost sexual bliss, until two voices echoed from the entrance door. So, what do you think social media will think of her? That was Brian's voice. Dunno, why do you ask? Just curious. Remember the last time we tried to get Roxy and Monty together? Oh god, that was a meltdown. Their footsteps suddenly stopped. Now where did they go? You slightly unwrapped your right arm so you could place a finger on your mouth. Moon suppressed a chuckle, like he would call for help. It will only lead to this moment being cut short. He wanted to experience more of your body. Sadly, though, he was down to 10% battery. So this will be cut short sooner than later. Though, he definitely didn't mind. He loved you.